Man, have you ever thought about being a superstar, having an extraordinary talent, but one wrong decision or several bad decisions end up ruining your status and your career? That was the case with our boy and I. Neymar emerged at Santos as a generational talent and the new star of the Brazilian national team, which was undeniable. The kid was dominating here in Brazil, with outstanding performances and being named the best Brazilian player in activity at the time. But before that, don't forget to like and subscribe. It's super important for the channel. So hit that like button and let's go. And we had several stars playing in Europe. He was the second Brazilian to make it into a Ballon d'Or top 10 without even playing in Europe yet, which is rare and only happened with who? Exactly. The great goalkeeper from Sao Paulo, right? Things got more intense after the FIFA Club World Cup, where Santos faced Barcelona in the final, and Neymar, man, he tore it up against the best team in Europe and the world at that time. After the stellar performance, Neymar went to Barcelona, and I don't even need to say that he played amazingly there, forming one of the most magical trios in football history, the MSN trio, alongside Messi and Luisito Suarez. But things got serious over time, right, man? Seeing that he wasn't going to achieve much more at Barcelona after winning that Champions League, and with an almost irresistible offer from Paris Saint-Germain, Neymar left Barcelona after about 5 seasons. PSG had the plan to make Neymar the star of the club, and that did happen over time, with his name even being displayed on the Eiffel Tower. At PSG, he also dominated, scoring 118 goals and providing countless assists. Man, Neymar played incredibly well. But the issue with Neymar's career has always been his off-field activities, with him being heavily criticized for getting involved in controversies, including parties, bad behavior, and relationships with various women. Obviously, what happens in football stays in football, and what's personal stays in his personal life. But the internet doesn't forgive, you know that, and this may have affected our boy and I. But if the problems were only those controversies, things would have still been okay, right? The real issue is that, besides the controversies, there were also his injuries. Since Neymar left Barcelona and joined Paris Saint-Germain, he has been injured more than 11 times, missing many important games during the seasons he stayed. This caught the attention of PSG, who did everything to keep Neymar off the field even more. After all, man, even when he wasn't playing, his salary was still the highest of the club, and it kept hitting his account. These injuries really affected Neymar, as he would usually be out for about 2 months, and for an athlete, that's a lot of time. Then came the time to say goodbye to PSG, with him leaving the club in 2023 after the Qatar World Cup. The expectation was that he would stay in Europe since, even with the injuries, he still had a lot of talent left to play there, and he was rumored to join major clubs. But out of nowhere, he ended up signing with Al Hilal in an extremely high transfer worth around 90 million euros, plus a 20 million bonus. This was a slap in the face to many people because, unlike Ronaldo, who had gone to Al Nassr a year earlier, Neymar was only 32 at the time and still had a lot of football left to play in Europe. The thing is, he barely played in Saudi Arabia before getting injured again, obviously. For the Brazilian national team, he has stayed out until today without playing a single match, with a return expected only in 2025 when his contract with Al Hilal ends. The issue with Neymar's career is that he didn't take care of his physical condition after the age of 28, which is an age very prone to injuries. But it's not just that, since apparently his off-field problems affected him on the pitch as well. Now, just imagine, man, being hailed as the Emperor by one of the biggest fan bases in Italy, considered one of the greatest Brazilians to play in Serie A. But after some personal issues, you experience a sharp decline in your career. That was the case with our Brazilian Adriano, the Emperor. You most likely didn't get to see Adriano play, especially if you're from the 2006 generation. But those who did know that this man was a beast, one of the best center forwards in Serie A and in the world. He had supernatural strength, going up against legends like Maldini and Gattuso. Yes, Maldini and Gattuso. He was one of Inter Milan's pillars and was nicknamed the Emperor, in reference to a Roman emperor also named Adriano. Coincidence? I think not. The nickname stuck and became a key part of his story. But Adriano didn't like being called the Emperor, especially after the death of his father. Exactly, man. Adriano's career, unlike many others, wasn't ruined by injuries or anything like that. It was because his father had passed away. He received the news while on Inter Milan's plane, on the way to play a game for the team. The news shattered Adriano's mind, and in an interview, he said that at that moment, his world had collapsed. He fell into a deep depression, and even after moving to other clubs, his performance was never the same. He ended his career at 34 after suffering an Achilles tendon injury. In another interview, Adriano said that this further demotivated him and that he could no longer play football. The truth is, after his father's death, he never performed at a high level again. While for some, his salary would have been a dream, Adriano said that his salary didn't make any difference to him and didn't make him happy because his father wasn't there with him. Many people criticize Adriano because he always had a favela mentality, if we can put it that way, and was seen as having a small mindset. But the truth is that he wasn't well and suffered from severe depression. Adriano's football was truly imperial, where even during his bad phase, his numbers were still good, but never like before. Now, let's talk about a player who's turned into a meme, and that's Mario Balotelli. This Italian, at his peak, played some amazing football, and he became known for his attitude when scoring goals, especially that famous celebration when he played for City, where he scores, lifts his shirt, and it reads, "Why always me?" The truth is, Balotelli was one of the best in the world. But like we mentioned with Neymar's case, sometimes off-field issues affect an athlete in a surreal way. Balotelli got involved in several controversies, including with women, parties, poor discipline at clubs, and other rumors, even involving pure nonsense. You know what I'm talking about. These controversies destroyed Balotelli's career, and to this day, he's never been able to recover as a player. The man even had stints with completely irrelevant clubs, and this at 34 years old. I don't even remember the last time I saw him play or perform at a high level. The thing is, he simply doesn't play at the same level anymore, yet he's still demanding exorbitant salaries. And, to be honest, I bet you didn't even know that this guy is still playing as a professional. Let me know if you knew or not. Now, let's talk about a bit of a heavier case in this video, and that's Dele Alli. This man created one of the most iconic and difficult celebrations in football, but then he simply disappeared and hasn't been seen since. Well, he has appeared, but only to give interviews. Dele Alli was absolutely dominating at Tottenham, being one of the best players in the world and one of the best English players at the time. What we see Phil Foden doing today, what Cole Palmer is doing now, Dele Alli was already doing back then, maybe even more than those stars. Don't know if you agree with me. The thing is, he got too full of himself and didn't like to train, with very poor discipline. Jose Mourinho, who was Tottenham's coach at the time, even said that if he didn't change his ways, he'd have a shorter career than he deserved. And that's exactly what happened. He was loaned out several times and didn't perform at any of the clubs he went to on loan. Currently, he's without a club at 28 years old. People have come up with several theories about what could have happened to Dele Alli's career, one of them being that he lost the motivation to play football and didn't care about anything anymore. To some extent, that's true. He really did lose the will to play football. But the issue goes much deeper, revealing many things from his personal life. The player shared that he was abused at the age of 6 by a friend of his biological mother. On top of that, he had to deal with his mother's alcoholism, and by the age of 8, Dele Alli was already trafficking drugs and smoking. He said, "At 7 years old, I started smoking, and at 8, I started dealing drugs." This was obviously denied by his family, but we don't know if it's true or not. What's clear is that he was by far one of the most wasted talents in recent years, especially since he was one of the best midfielders in the Premier League and sought after by European giants. Nowadays, he's practically retired, but he hasn't ruled out the possibility of playing again one day. I think it's unlikely, but who knows, right? And man, there's a case of a player who also played amazing football but didn't like to train. This is the case of our Belgian, Eden Hazard, former player of Real Madrid, who retired last year, if I'm not mistaken, at the age of 32. He could still be playing today. That's a fact, but his physical condition was no longer the best. Hazard was by far one of the worst signings in Real Madrid's history, bought for €100 million from Chelsea, a massive amount that could have been worth it if Hazard hadn't been lazy about training. Well, that's the guy's job, and he was just lazy. That Hazard from Chelsea was a star, and everyone knew how great he was, drawing all the attention to himself. But at Real Madrid, he struggled with many injuries and was never in shape, arriving at training extremely bloated. To put it mildly, for those who are overly sensitive, if you're not in shape, you obviously don't play and end up sitting on the bench. Even while playing great football, he rarely got on the field, and when he did, he didn't make a difference to the team. After retiring, he simply gave an interview saying that instead of training, he preferred to eat fast food and play video games. How silly is that? Man, If there's one player who still had a lot of fuel left to burn, it's the Frenchman Paul Pogba, who is temporarily suspended from football. Actually, he's banned. You probably remember very well Pogba's stunning performances for Juventus, a maestro in midfield, an extra-class player, and at the time, one of the best midfielders in the world, commonly regarded as one of the best players of his era. Pogba's career decline specifically began after he left the old lady for Manchester United, where he had a terrible stint, struggling with injuries and no longer being the Pogba we knew at Juventus. He eventually returned to Juventus, but continued to perform poorly and got involved in various controversies, including the doping case, where he was caught in a drug test. This obviously resulted in a justice case, and Pogba was sidelined from football for nearly 6 years, effectively throwing his career away, since by the time the ban ended, he would be around 37 years old and wouldn't be able to perform at a high level anymore. This is going to happen to Paqueta very soon. Recently, news came out that his ban is under many quotes, and that he could return to play for the old lady in March 2025. But the issue is much deeper than that. When the old lady barely knew how to break the news, they already wanted to terminate the contract of the Frenchman. This isn't official yet, but that's what the reports say, including Fabrizio Romano himself. Let's be honest here. He hasn't performed well for basically 4 seasons now, and these days, there are better players his age and even a bit older. One example is Xhaka from Bayer Leverkusen. The fact is that the problem with his career has been the doping issue, because, let's face it, a player of Pogba's level shouldn't need that. If you want to perform better, train, dedicate yourself, and see if you can reach your goals. It's unacceptable to screw yourself over because of something so foolish. Sorry for the profanity, but I believe that if he returns, he will come back playing very poorly and might even retire. That's what I would do. He has already given interviews stating that he would like to return to play, but that he feels very discouraged. The fact is that he ruined his career and his talent for nothing. There are certainly more cases of players who were very good but wasted their talent, like Oscar, that Brazilian midfielder who went to play in China. He played exceptionally well at Chelsea, but threw his career away for money. I can't say much about that. He's probably one of the billionaires in football now. Let me know in the comments if we missed anyone else, and if we did, we can add them to a future list. Okay, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It's super important.